Alright folks, day 21 of 31 Days of Horror-Ween 2017. 10 days left till Halloween. We're almost there. Alright, so when you're doing something like 31 Days of Horror-Ween, the idea is to kind of dig a little bit deeper than the usual genre stuff. You know, there are a lot of movies that I consider among the best horror films of all time that I will never cover for this annual event. Not because I don't like them. I mean, The Evil Dead, The Exorcist, The Original Dawn of the Dead, the original Halloween, they're all among my favorite movies of all time, regardless of genre. But the thing is, people have been singing their praises forever. You know, everybody knows they're great movies. Everybody's seen them a million times. You don't really need me to tell you anything you don't know. So I like to kind of focus in on the more obscure stuff, the kind of movies that people, probably, people have seen them, of course, but they're not as popular. A lot of them are kind of swept under the rug. A lot of really weird experimental movies and foreign films that aren't really all that common in popular discussions. So you try to steer clear of the obvious ones. And I never really wanted to get around to doing something as mainstream as Friday the 13th because, for God's sakes, I mean, it's the most ubiquitous thing of the 1980s. It's like Max Headroom. It is the 80s defined. Just because it's so common. But then again, if you're talking about, doing 31 Days of Horror-Ween as a pseudo-sociological analysis of the changing mores of culture, I think eventually you have to get around to reviewing at least one Friday the 13th. Just kind of give people an overall picture of, uh, how movies reflected the time. And I don't know, I just picked a really random one. I could have picked any of the movies that came out in the 80s, and there were, 8 of them that came out in the 1980s. But I went with the final chapter because a lot of people consider it to be the best Friday the 13th movie. And before we get into the nuts and bolts of that, the thing about Friday the 13th is that, even among like hardcore horror fans, it's just completely denigrated. I can't think of a single franchise which has just been as absolutely annihilated and savage and criticized and condemned by critics and moral guardians alike than Friday the 13th. I mean, it's a movie where the moral majority hates it, the of the soil concerned Republicans hate it, and of course the elitists in Hollywood hate it. They think it's misogynistic and racist and just completely brain dead. So the art house academics hate it. The Baptists hate it. Everybody hates Friday the 13th movies, even like hardcore horror fans. Like, it's kind of cool. It's always kind of been in vogue to look down on these movies, as being, just theatrical trash. It's not really, the best the genre has to offer. You look at all the great Italian, European, surreal art house movies compared to Friday the 13th. Friday the 13th is just absolute rubbish. Americanized fast food crap. I mean, I can't tell you how many movies or not movies, but books dedicated to like capsule reveals of horror movies, like the old John Stanley book, and I remember Video Hound did like a horror special one year, and even there, they just absolutely just piss all over the Jason movies. Like, it's garbage. I'm gonna give it 0 stars. It's pointless. Anybody who watches this movie is brain dead. We all know what Roger Ebert thinks about it. So it's a universally loathed series across the board, except by fans of degenerate cinema. I mean, we're the only people who actually like these movies, and I still think the movies get a really bad rap. For years I've been wondering about maybe I should do like an hour-long video where I just review and rank all the Friday the 13th movies. So I have way too much to say about the movies and their reputation that I just can't do it in one video. I mean, I got to do it like an hour, like next year. But there's a lot of stuff going on there. I'll just sort of sum it up like this. Friday the 13th, it's the McDonald's of horror movies. Because going in, you know exactly what you're going to get. It's not exactly good for you. It's not original. It's not healthy. It will make you fat. But damn it, do you enjoy it, no matter how cheesy it is. And sort of the curse of the Friday the 13th movies is like every time they get further away from the general idea of what the original movie was, which is horny dumb kids go out in the woods to smoke pot and have sex and then they get butchered. The further they get away from that, the more the movies are hated by the hardcore fans, the less money they make, and the more it pisses off the art house people and academics. Like, they hate it, even if you try to throw in like a variable. And, I always kind of feel bad for Friday the 13th directors because you're really stuck in an impossible position where you can't win, where you desperately, direly want to try something different with the genre, but every time you try to do something other than like a campground murder fest, it's sort of disappointing. I mean, we've seen that happen time and time again. And with the final chapter from 1984, I think in a lot of ways this is the last truly classical, old school, straight up, no frills, no gimmicks necessary Friday the 13th movie. Because it's got the basic plot. You got dumb kids going out in the woods and they don't come back. And starting with part 5, you started seeing the variations. Like part 5 was more of a murder mystery. Part 6 is kind of like a horror comedy. Part 7, you had the psychic chick. It just getting more ridiculous. So this is the last pure incarnation of Friday the 13th as we know it. So yeah, Tom Savini came back for special effects, and there's lots of really good, death scenes going on here. Nothing I don't need to tell you. You already know that. It's directed by a guy named Joe Zito, who's actually went on to make a whole bunch of Chuck Norris movies, which kind of raises the question: how come we never got Jason versus Chuck Norris like in 1989? I mean, that would have been awesome. I mean, they did that one silent, what was it called? Like Silent Predator or Silent Prey, something like that, or Silent Rage, where it's kind of like, a psycho killer taking on Chuck Norris, but it's neither here nor there. It would have been better. That's the crossover movie you want. You don't want Jason versus Freddy. You want Jason versus whatever Chuck's character's name was in Invasion USA, but missed opportunities. So, there's really not a whole lot to say about the movie because you can explain the plot in one sentence. Kids go out in the cabin to smoke the weed and have the sex, and then Jason shows up and he kills all of them. Really couldn't get any simpler than that. I mean, just straight up formula. Everyone dies one at a time. Each death gets more gruesome than the last, and you got some good kills in this one. You got the guy at the hospital getting his neck sawed off, and you've got the one nurse getting stabbed in the stomach and slit open. Ugh, it was gross. Probably one of the grosser deaths we had in the entire franchise. What else we got? We got the guy being killed in the shower. That's a good one. We got people being thrown out of windows on top of cars. And of course, the grand finale at the end where Jason gets really the worst death of the entire franchise. He gets beat to death by Corey Feldman. But yeah, the ending is kind of goofy, but you know what? It's just so fun. You got so much great stuff going on here. You got Glover, Crispin Glover, that's his name, right? Yeah. Yeah, Crispin Glover, acting like a goofball, and you've got, fat girls getting, killed on the side of the road while they're eating bananas. You got Corey Feldman running around, acting all goofy and all Pizzagate-y. I mean, it's just a really fun, comfortable movie. It's not a great movie. I don't think you can really call it a great genre movie. Nor can I really think it's the best Friday the 13th. I think Part 2 is still the gold standard. But it's probably the second best in the entire series. You just know what you're going to expect. It's a Big Mac. This is the horror genre version of a Whopper. You know exactly what it's going to taste like, and you like it anyway. And I really don't need to tell you anything. You've probably seen this movie a million times. And next year I'll do the whole big, hour-long, documentary about Friday the 13th. I promise. It's on the docket. And we'll go more in depth on it. But just for the time being, Friday the 13th, the final chapter, I'm going to give it a solid 3 tofu dogs out of 4. It's definitely guilty pleasure material. And tomorrow is day 22, and we're going to be looking at another slasher movie. Although this one is not a franchise movie, it's a one-and-done movie from 1987. And even if you've never seen it, you probably remember the box art. It's very memorable, but is the movie as good as the iconic VHS package? Tune in tomorrow, folks. I'll tell you.